Podnutz Daily for June 26, 2008. I'm Steve Cherubino, if you don't know that already, and I'm the host of the show, and there's no other people on the show except me, so except the callers. So I don't need to introduce anybody else. I've been trying to get a Skype phone number if you've been listening, and yes, I finally got one today. If you want to call in at the end of the show with a tip or a suggestion or a question or whatever, and you don't have Skype hooked up, get Skype hooked up. But if you can't get Skype hooked up, you could call this number, 610-624-1689. And if you want to call in, you can just call that number on a normal phone, and it goes right to my Skype account. Okay, I want to talk about the wireless job that I was discussing yesterday. I asked for suggestions for a wireless G adapter, and I got some good suggestions on some calls. I haven't heard back from that customer. I just wanted to give you an update. So the Linksys Range Max must be doing better than the Belkin Wireless G. So although it's twice the price, might be worth it for you if you know you're on the edge of a network and you don't want to get into access points or range expanders or buy a new router. Okay, I had a problem today with a laptop or a desktop we worked on. It was one of the ones I talked about also in an earlier podcast where the USB, when you had things plugged into the USB, the CPU would max out at 99. Well, we brought the computer back to the shop. We cleaned up a lot of stuff. So when we plugged into things into the USB ports now, it didn't max out at 99. Everything seemed fine with that. So we know the USB drivers and the hardware was okay. But she gave a call today. She was having problems. The same problem she had when she first called us, which was when she plugged in her digital camera, the wireless or the USB port would come up with an error that says it did not recognize the hardware, or it says you entered something into the USB port and it's not recognized by Windows. And all her drivers were loaded, and that wasn't the problem. So what I did then, because it didn't happen at the shop, we took her camera actually to the shop, and we had the computer at the shop. We plugged in her camera, and everything was fine at the shop. When she took it home, she had this problem. So my train of thought on this was, okay, what else does she have plugged in her USB ports? And she had a scanner and she had a printer. When we unplugged the printer, still the same problem. When we unplugged the scanner, the camera worked fine. So there was a conflict between the scanner and the digital camera. As far as I could tell, both because they are imaging devices, and they might be trying to use the same something rather when one or the other is plugged in. When one's not plugged in, the other one works fine, and vice versa. So I went in, I reinstalled the scanner software, reinstalled the camera software. Didn't really fix the problem there, but customer was okay with just unplugging the scanner every time she wasn't using it and unplugging in the camera every time she was using it. We spent a lot of time on our computer, and it got her to this point, which is better than what she had. We also fixed the laptop for her for almost nothing, so she was happy with that. I still haven't figured out what the problem was, but I know when we tried both things on her laptop, everything worked fine on her laptop. The laptop we did a complete Windows reinstall on with a fresh operating system, everything worked fine. When on the desktop, though, where she had lots of stuff, lots of programs, lots of junk, we could have gone through it and spent a couple more hours. But as of right now, I didn't have a quick fix for that. All we knew is we unplug one, plug the other one in, it works. So, officially we could try doing a USB hub. Maybe that might work. Suggestions are open for that if you want to post them in the forums. But I consider that job done because we spent enough time on it. It could be a project in the future, but for now, I'll just let that one go. I have no problem forgetting about that one. Got a computer in today with a spyware error. It was infected with XP antivirus. Usually when I run SMIT fraud fix, I can get rid of XP antivirus. Let's see. A couple of days ago, I did a system restore and brought it back to a point before they got infected with XP antivirus. If you don't know, XP antivirus is a piece of spyware that is very closely mimics a Windows program. It has the little shield with the colors in it, the 4 colors, and it's just different enough, I guess, to keep them legally separated from Microsoft. But they try very hard to make themselves look like a Microsoft program. And it pops up and it says you're infected with spyware and that you need to buy the program. And the customer spends $50 and basically wastes $50 of their own dollars on this program. Ran Smith fraud, and what else did we do? I think Smith fraud got rid of it, but now there was another piece of spyware that this customer had on their machine. It was on their desktop. Don't know if you guys have seen this before. It's a yellow and blue rectangle in the middle of the desktop, and it says your computer has been infected with spyware. You need to have it removed, or something along those lines. I don't have the exact text in front of me. I left it at the shop. We are working on that. We did a couple searches on Google because Smith fraud didn't get rid of that. One thing that we did find online to get rid of that problem was because the problem actually took over the desktop wallpaper. Now, it was the wallpaper itself now telling us we had spyware. So if we go into display properties and go to the desktop tab, you can usually get rid of that. But on this computer, the desktop tab in display properties was gone. Didn't even exist anymore. So spyware must have done a number on that and made it so we couldn't get rid of that error message. So tomorrow we're going to do a little more work on that. If anybody had that problem and knows how to get rid of it, let me know. Either in the chat, even though I have a little problem talking and looking at the chat at the same time, I could look at it afterwards, or in the forums, or if you want to email me at mail@podnutzdaily.com, or you could call at the end of the show. There's a lot of ways to contact me. That would be appreciated if you know how to get rid of that spyware error. A positive thing today, one thing we did get a definite done on is laptop. I talked also in a past podcast about I replaced a motherboard in a customer's laptop, but he refused to change his power adapter, and his power adapter was in bad shape. It was shorting out constantly. There was exposed wires, and he told me he was going to buy a new one, but actually what he did is went home and kept using his old one. Well, eventually it caught up with him, and it blew out his motherboard on his laptop. So he brought it back in and said, what's the problem? Almost insinuating you just fixed this kind of thing. And I said, look, you used that power adapter. We recommended you don't use it. So he's like, oh, yeah, I know. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, I looked up a new motherboard for him, got him a price on eBay, doing my normal eBay method. And he was willing to pay that. But on the phone, when I was telling him what happened, he sounded awfully dejected, and I had a little sympathy for him. He apparently had like tons of other bills crashing down on him at this point, and business was a little slow today. So I opened up his laptop, and I took a good look at his motherboard to see if there was anything on the motherboard components that I could actually see that were fried or had been blown out. And there was one single capacitor on his motherboard that was actually blown out. Capacitors have, especially on laptops, they're usually the metal capacitors. I'm talking about the bigger ones. They're usually metal, with a solid metal container, as opposed to capacitors on desktop motherboards that